Welcome to Women and the Businesses They Own, where we celebrate the women behind the business and their stories and their purpose and their journeys that shaped who they are today. All of it. I love it. I'm your host, Sherry Hooper at Summit Wealth Partners. And each episode, we have meaningful conversations with women who are making a difference in the lives of others. Today's guest is Katie Wysocki, founder of State of Mind Counseling, right? State of Mind Counseling here in Grand Rapids. Is that correct?
Yeah, the technical legal
Yeah.
registered name is State of Mind Grand Rapids.
Oh, State of Mind Grand Rapids. Yes. Thank you. Thank you. Katie provides a safe, compassionate, and non-judgmental space where people can share their stories, work through their life challenges, establish healthy boundaries, and ultimately find their own voice. So, Katie, thank you so much for being on the show today. I have been thrilled with all of the guests, and everyone brings a new excitement, energy element to the podcast. And so, thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me. This is my
Yeah.
first podcast. Very excited. So thanks for the opportunity.
Oh, you're welcome. I hope that I'm breaking you in gently because I'm sure you'll have many more. Well, the very
Thanks.
first question that I think, even for myself, you and I had met, I believe maybe met briefly at an event recently. Did we do it at Rising Together? Otherwise,
We connected through Courtney from
yep.
Harmonica.
Okay.
She's
So I
on your
didn't
podcast.
see you at the event. Okay.
Nope. She sent me some
Perfect.
joint email. So,
Joint email. Okay. So
yep.
that's what I love about this show too, is then I don't know nearly as much about you as I would like to, and the same for our guests. So
Yeah.
please tell us a little bit more about yourself. And I would love to know personally, you know, married life, and then talk about your business a little bit. Kind of get us up to date and give a good summary.
Yeah. So I grew up in the Grand Rapids area my entire life, except for the 2 years when I was away at college. I have a brother. My parents, they're great. My kind of goal always in life. So we had season tickets to Michigan football growing up. I went to my first game, I think was fourth grade with my dad. Fell in love with the campus ever since. Like again, just kind of family tradition oriented. And as I was going through high school, I applied to colleges, didn't really know what I wanted to do. I was never really science, math oriented. So props to all of the people who are because we need them. I am not one of them. I was always more like English, art minded in that way. And when I didn't get into U of M right away as a high school senior. That's very hard to do for a lot of people. So I ended up going to Grand Rapids Community College and I went there for 2 years, got my associates. While I was there, I also worked as a tutor. So that was really exciting, a new thing for me. And then I got accepted to a couple of places in addition to U of M to transfer. And I ultimately, even though I got scholarships to some of the others, chose U of M without scholarship money because that was the dream, right?
Yep. Yep.
And
And they don't do a lot of scholarships from what I hear. So, I mean, apparently they don't need to because people like yourself, that's the dream.
it's
Yep.
it's the dream. And I think they have now, like, I think it's called the Michigan Promise, where they can help fund for different people in different situations. But in order, I'm guessing, to get scholarship money, it has to be that level up here. And I was kind of like thinking, what do I want to do? And psychology was always something I was interested in. I also am generally interested in like event planning and design and things like that. But I started to think of like, what do I want my life to look like when I grow up? Like, do I want to work on weekends like you have to for event planning? And I'd always kind of wanted a family. And so I was like, no, I don't really want to do that. And I know it's kind of like popular and trendy now, but a lot of people would watch now, like, documentaries, docu-series of mass murderers, serial killers, true crime oriented things. That's kind of not, all of the streaming services have them all out. Back then, prior to streaming services, I was renting books from the library, true crime books. I always had this desire to understand why people do what they do in hopes that if we can, notice these things about people, notice these qualities or these patterns, what lends into significant crime, maybe we can take more proactive stance, put in services, put in social services, and then maybe that can help reduce some of the crime that we experience in life. And so I got my bachelor's in psych. I actually went as far at the time as to talk to the FBI to see what would need to be in the behavioral analysis unit, which is what that unit does, is speaks to people who are generally incarcerated or have been caught for their crimes and convicted, and gets all of their backstory to see like what are the patterns here. And then they kind of told me like, oh yeah, in order to do that, you would have to be like undercover. You may have to work with significant crimes and all of this. And I was like, that doesn't feel conductive to a family. Undercover work, not really my thing. I kind of just wanted to talk to people. That's really all I wanted. I don't want to have to carry a weapon and trick people in my mind. And so I was like, well, I'm right. I'm going to pivot. Bachelor's in psych, not much to do with after the fact. And so I kind of took some time off and I worked in a bank call center for a while, again, talking to people. I've worked retail in my life. I've worked in serving, always like this commonality of humanity and people. And I worked in the call center for a couple years. And during that time, I started thinking like, what can I do? I need to get my master's. I'm not going to let my degree not come to use. I worked really hard for it. And then I started exploring this option of counseling. And so then I ended up going to Central Michigan. They have a satellite campus in Grand Rapids, or they did at the time. And I did two and a half years for that program. And so it was pretty much every other Friday evening and all day Saturday, but it allowed you to work during the week. And I did that. And then after that, you have to go through like what's a practicum or pre-internship. And I did that at Anxiety Resource Center in the downtown Grand Rapids area. Phenomenal community resource, for the record. I will always hype them up for their work they do. And I did open groups for adults experiencing anxiety. And that actually was very intentional on my part. When we were going through our program, we had to learn how to hold groups and conduct groups. And yeah, I was really uncomfortable with the idea of that, like very resistant. And so I was like, ooh, this is a spot where I need to gain experience. And so that's what I sought out for my practicum is I'm going to gain experience in doing groups. In the event that I ever have to do it, I want to feel good about doing it. And then from there, my internship and where I accrued most of my hours, I worked in a pediatric autism clinic doing applied behavioral analysis. I also worked with the families to address like barriers, outcomes, address some of their things going on of why sometimes it's hard to implement what we're doing in a clinic in their house. And I did that for a while, and then COVID hit. And so my middle, because I have 3 kiddos, my middle was born January of 2020. So right before COVID hit. And I ended up staying home through COVID because also schools were closed. So my oldest had to stay home. And then in fall of 2020, I was like, well, I kind of want to get back at it. I got my full license at that point, and I reached out to a private practice in Grand Rapids who ended up hiring me. And I worked there for 4.5, 5-ish years. And then in time when I was pregnant with my youngest now, there was just some changes happening. And my dream had always been to open my own thing, my own private practice. I wanted to do that. The timing was not necessarily ideal in my brain because I was pregnant, eventually having to, go on maternity leave. But I was like, hey, the writing's on the wall for me. I had already kind of started State of Mind Grand Rapids because at the time we were contracted workers. So we all had to have LLCs when I first started there. So I already had the name. And so then I was like, well, let's do it. No better time than now. Again, leaning into the uncomfortability. I try really hard to not let my fear hold me back. And I started that process. It took a little bit, but all of my clients followed me. It was really great. It's been a really solid transition. It's been now about a little over a year. May was a year for the private practice, and it's all virtual right now. maybe in time when my kids all go to school more full-time oriented, I would look at a space, but right now it's all virtual.
Oh, okay. So you work out of your home and you just do it all like by Zoom or what have you, some sort of link that way.
Yeah. So I use a HIPAA compliant, like electronic health record based system. So it's all there. It was actually the one I used at the previous private practice. I really wanted to keep it consistent
Yep.
for everybody, including myself. And
Yep.
so, yep, that's what we
It
did.
seems like through these podcasts, so many of you gals have just decided to start your business in or through COVID, or you're not necessarily in COVID. You went back to work in COVID, or when you had an opportunity to go back and join the other practice. But then what you did, which is also similar, is you just decided to like, yeah, I'm pregnant and I can have a baby and go on maternity and still start my own business. It's really, women are very resilient that, or even maybe resilience, not the best word I was thinking of, but certainly powering through whatever we have going on. So you have two little ones and you're on your third one, and you decide, yeah, now's the time. The writing's on the wall. I can do this. And
Mhm.
you're making it happen because the nice thing is you don't have to have an office right now.
Yep.
Everybody, if there was a good thing about COVID, it was that everybody's like, hey, yeah, we could do Zoom-ish, right? Some sort of version of what Zoom is,
Yep.
and you're making that work. So, well, tell me, what are your kids' names and ages?
Yes. So my oldest, Brooklyn, she just turned 15 actually. Um,
15. Oh, okay. Got it.
yeah. And then my middle, Jax, he is 6.5. And my youngest, Carter, she is on those outskirts of 2.
Yeah. So the 15-year-old obviously is in school more and hopefully is a built-in babysitter. A little, a little.
She does phenomenal. She is a great babysitter. It's whether or not her siblings want to listen to her.
Well, that happens in every household for sure.
Yes, I remember babysit. So my brother is like 3.5 years younger than me. We joke about how back when house phones were a thing,
Yeah.
I used to babysit. We're going to use that very loosely. Um, and when we would argue, we would call my mom at work. And I don't know how this flew, but we would each pick up one end of the house phone and would be screaming into it of like trying to tell her our side. And she would be, guys, I'm at work.
Like,
So
knock it off. Wait till I get home.
yeah. And then we'd be like, oh, we need to fix this before she gets home.
Right,
We
right.
should have called.
I do miss house phones, man. That was so nice that you could grab any, because we would have a phone like in almost every room, right? It was just easy every other room and everybody could be on the phone. Or you could go do laundry and if you could hear the phone ring, if you forget your cell phone now, you're just always like, man, I missed that call.
I think
And
they're actually coming back. I thought I saw a company is coming out with a house phone or something similar to a house phone because, the millennial generation is all about the nostalgia that we had for our childhood. That's what's selling right now. And yeah, so
okay,
I had a friend mention that. They're like, "Did you see that's coming back? I think I might get it."
gotcha. Well, so are you currently married?
I am. We
So,
have been together for like 10 years, married 8. We're about to hit 8, I think it is.
okay, great. So he obviously is very supportive of I mean, because it's a lot to have three kiddos, and you're like trying to navigate high school and elementary school and a baby. That takes a lot of
Mhm.
brain power right there. Just it's nice when they all flow similarity in ages, but you're all over the place on that one. So kudos to you.
Thanks.
But it's
Yeah,
always nice when our spouses are supportive, obviously, and being able to do a business out of your house and knowing that you were going to be on maternity. I mean, you're not getting a maternity benefit when you go off on
correct.
your own, right? So, I mean, if in really what you said was your practice, what you were consulting. So there was not a maternity benefit necessarily there either, correct?
Correct. And a lot of companies, it's not, I don't believe it's mandated or there's no legal stance, at least right now. I advocate that there should be, but it all depends on where you work and the benefits and all of those pieces in general. So,
Something that's interesting to me though is that you were able to take all your clients. So did you not have any type of a non-disclosure or non-compete? Because that seems really nice that you were able to take them with you.
in the therapy world, similar to doctor's offices or dentists, right? There's ethics involved in it. And depending on your ethics board and individual states and laws and things, a lot of people are more tied to a therapist than they are to a practice. And a lot of people, so when I told all of the people I work with, I was like, hey, I'm going to be transitioning to starting my own thing. You have options. I'm as far as therapists go, I'm on the upfront, very honest end of like whether it's billing or policy or whatever it is. And so I was like, you are welcome to come with me. You can stay with the practice and I can suggest somebody here who may have similar approach, or if you want something totally different, tell
Oh,
me, I can suggest. Or if you want to pause or find somebody outside of me and outside of the practice, that's always an option too. And that's part of that, like finding your own voice of like teaching and helping people advocate for what they want and what's best for them. And everybody was pretty unanimous of like, hey, I still want to continue our work.
okay.
And
That's hard
so
to start over. Yeah.
yeah, because once there's a part when you're starting therapy of like, here's some of my backstory, here's some of these things going on. And then to
Mhm.
start over is kind of repeating the stories instead of like, hey, we were already addressing this pattern. We already know the root of the pattern, but now how do we work on the behavior modification and the thoughts surrounding this pattern kind of thing?
Mhm. So one of the questions that I had in my mind was, and I like to ask this is
Mhm.
when you were little, now you said you're in fourth grade, you went to the big house for a game, right? And then from ever since you had this goal of going to U of M, and you said even going to U of M, you weren't quite sure what you wanted as a degree, but we always, when we're little, always have these dreams of becoming something. What was your dream of becoming, even as cute as or as whimsical as it might have been? What did you want to be?
So I am a daydreamer by nature. When I get an idea or something like I'm kind of good at or enjoy, it's like going to the nth degree in my brain of like, this is where I could take it. So there have been times I wanted to be an actress. At one time, I probably wanted to be a model because that was, America's Next Top Model was on the TV. A designer of some sort. Like I said, I liked creativity. In
Mm.
high school, ironically, now I laugh about how like not this would not have been me, but I wanted to be an anesthesiologist. And so instead of taking Spanish in high school, I took Latin so I could get ahead in the medical community like world and know these Latin terms.
Yeah.
Yeah, so Latin's really hard, did not love. And I also, like I said, not science minded. So I learned that one.
So you don't have to use it in counseling, huh? The Latin's just not helping you in any way.
No, the 2 years I had to take a foreign language to graduate high school being Latin have not come back for me. And actually, I wish I would have stayed with Spanish.
To Spanish, would that have helped with some of your clients?
Um, it could have, but in order to graduate from U of M at the time when I was there, you had to have like an intermediate level two of a foreign language. And so I
Okay.
had to restart Spanish all over again because I spent 4 years not taking it. And so everything I learned in grade school fell off. And so that's where if I would have just kept with it, I probably could have tested out.
Oh, gotcha. That would have been a benefit for you. Yeah, you don't test out of Latin. They don't look at Latin as
No, that's not a hyped up benefit of, employment, education is not Latin.
yeah. Where did you go to high school?
I went to West Catholic.
Oh, okay. I was with the when you said that about having Spanish so early, I wondered if you were part of Forest Hills because they have that Spanish immersion and so it's like all in Spanish at Ada Vista. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I know a couple other high schools and, school systems are like that now. Back then, we just
Yeah.
had to take 2 years of foreign language to graduate.
Yeah. So West Catholic, I always hear is kind of tight, that community. Are your kids going there too as a second generation or third? I don't know. Maybe your parents went there.
My mom did go there. My dad went to Union, and so that's how we ended up there. We explored West Catholic as an option, and then we ended up going with a public school
Oh, okay. Yeah.
over this way for our kids. And yeah, so far it's been really great. Good
Yeah,
transition.
yeah, definitely. I just learned that. So somebody that I was talking to said West Catholic is so tight. It's just this tiny community. Everybody knows everybody, and you get all these. I had to ask you, are you doing a second or third generation? I needed to
Yeah,
know
no,
if
it's
that's true.
it's a lot of legacy and really it is a phenomenal community and I still have a soft spot for West Catholic, but there's also you have to look at cost benefit, what you want to do, all of these things. And
Mm-hmm.
I did again, choosing the uncomfortable, trying something new. I lean into that. I don't. It's a thing.
You just love you like taking the more difficult path and seeing where it leads, just kind of
Yeah.
pushing on through. Well, you described, when you were deciding on what you're doing today in the counseling area, you kind of described how you like the crime stuff and the behaviors of these criminals. And was there any one thing that was personal that drew you to this? Was there any crime that occurred in your neighborhood or something within your family? Nothing that actually drew you in personally. It was just that you liked crime, the true crime shows. Okay.
Yeah, it was to, I think, to more understand human nature and what makes a person a person. You know, that
Mhm.
ongoing debate of nature versus nurture and how that can manifest. And yeah, I mean, crime is a part of everyday society in most societies. And
Sure.
it was saying, like, hey, I'm seeing these bigger crimes starting to happen. Either that or they're just getting more news now with social
Yes.
media. They're prevalent and they're talked about very significantly. And saying, I feel like there's something we could do about this. What, again, figuring out why people are the way that they are.
Is that a lot of what then? I mean, this is going to sound crazy, but so are a lot of your patients, I think you'd call them, are a lot of your patients, are they coming from a criminal background or do you have patients of all? I mean, are you dealing with people all the time? Did you get in that world at all? Okay, so it's not really that. Okay,
No,
well, this,
I work a lot with anxiety. I would say anxiety is,
okay,
so I grew up with childhood anxiety that went undiagnosed because back in the 90s, 2000s, ADHD was very prevalent of a diagnosis, but childhood anxiety, especially, a lot of diagnostic labeling is written more from a male-based perspective because usually those are the researchers kind of thing. So I had childhood anxiety. Looking back, it was pretty easy to spot, but back then they weren't looking for it. And so I grew up with childhood anxiety, and that's when like I said, I did open groups for anxiety at Anxiety Resource Center. And now, because I have personal experience with anxiety in addition to clinical, that's where I'm seeing a lot of people come in, and just the understandings of being able to say, like, no, I understand how your brain is going there. My brain has gone there too. Here's different options for how to deal with it. So I would say anxiety, life transitions, parenting, college, all things I've kind of really, if I was going to niche down and put it under headings, those would kind of be it.
okay. So you have on your website, and it says every session is different because every person is different. So it's a great philosophy. Can you tell what somebody needs in a particular moment? Can you tell in the first session? Or why do you say that?
Yeah, it's because sometimes well, first, I let people know they are the experts of themselves. I'm just here to kind of guide this journey. And so part of what I call a collaborative process
Yeah.
is I always, in the very first session, I'm like, you can tell me if something is not working. You can tell me if it is working. I want you to get out of this what you need to get out of it. It's not at all about me. And I also explain, how I would discuss trauma, for example, where I say, I'm not going to label something as traumatic for you. You get to label it that way for yourself if you choose to. If I start to see you alluding to, hey, this thing happened, and you keep going back to it, I may suggest, how about we talk about it next time? What would that look like? What support do you need before? What support do you need after? So, because a lot of times therapy is one of the first, if not the only space they've ever talked about it or confronted it. And so it's kind of figuring out what people need and having them have that voice in there of, yeah, maybe I need to confront it, or I'm ready to confront it, or maybe we give it a couple more sessions and we do it later. And so that's part of it, is starting to kind of pick up on cues of what people might need in there. Sometimes it's, a really just empathetic, like, I hear you, I see you. Sometimes things are, hey, you've been repeating this pattern for a few months now. We've talked about it, like, what's going on? Why is this resurfacing? And kind of that gentle honesty of a kind of call out per se. And that's, yeah, it's kind of figuring out each person where they sit with it and different pieces like that.
How do people find you? I mean, how do you get new patients all the time? I mean, are they coming in from referrals, or do you have this just amazing website with all the right wording that people find on through Google? How do you do that?
I'm still figuring out how to get all of the referrals in. There's a lot of therapists in Grand Rapids, which I think is a great thing, a very positive thing. Um, my website, I get some on Psychology Today. Also, I'm paneled with multiple insurance companies where then you kind of, because at least in the Michigan Grand Rapids area, a lot of people want to use their insurance benefits, which makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
And
Sure.
so that's an important factor for a lot of people. But it's also, again, speaking towards what people want to address and be seen for. And just every therapist is different. Some therapists are very gentle and have a very gentle approach. Some, kind of similar to myself, are a little bit more upfront in that process. And I often joke with people, I'm like, I'm not the kind of therapist you see in like the cartoons that used to be in the Sunday paper where you're like sitting on a couch and I'm saying, how do you feel? Tell me about that. Like sometimes we might be laughing, sometimes we're joking, sometimes we are talking about a true crime documentary, and sometimes we're talking about reality TV and looping it all in of like this is the human experience. Sometimes I'll give an example where maybe I missed the mark to take it outside of somebody to give a different perspective.
Yeah. I would think that people would come in with a lot of different feelings and emotions and like you said anxieties and if you're dealing with high schoolers or if you're dealing with college, I mean they have a very tough life to live with the amounts of social media and expectations and different things that are on them. So how long does it take for you to go down this path with a patient normally? Is there I mean, I can't imagine you can knock it out in one session. There's probably going to be a couple months involved, don't you think? Just to first to get them to open up and to discover the real issue. Sometimes the underlying issue might not be what they said at all.
You are right there. So it takes a little bit to, and people, I again, part of the collaborative process is, do you want to come weekly? Do you want to come bi-weekly? Those are usually the two options I suggest up front. As people go longer, I am comfortable with once a month, but you kind of have to get into a rhythm and understand that what you get out of once a month is very different than if you're going to something more frequently. It takes a little bit in the beginning to kind of just get to know each other and start to put stories and names and patterns together. And so that's, I would say, maybe 3 to 6 months, depending on the person, their level of vulnerability, building up trust, and that. And then it depends also what people want to work on. For some people, just understanding, hey, I experience anxiety. Here's some coping skills. That's sometimes what people are looking for. And that might be more short term than, hey, how does this communication pattern present? Is it serving me? How's it impacting relationships? What relationships should I look at setting boundaries for? How do I do this? Who am I? Like those are much more long-term therapy, generally speaking.
I can imagine that. I was just thinking, when you were talking about that, my mind wanders a little bit too. So I'm going to go back to what you said is you've been with your husband 8 years. And so, but your career's been going a little bit longer than that. So is Wysocki your maiden name, or did you take his name and then restart with all of your patients? I'm just interested. As women, we just find ourselves with name changes all the time. And sometimes because our career starts before our marriage does, we end up using a different name. So what did you choose?
So when I was going through my program, I think we had been engaged at that point, so it was my maiden name, and then I got fully licensed. And once we got, I'm trying to think in there, wait, I would have been, yeah, it was in there. I think I had to change some things when I took his last name.
Oh, okay, you did. Yeah. I
Yeah.
mean, it just happens and you think, I am never doing this again. That name change thing is not easy.
No, it's such a process. And it's like you have to do the right steps. And I'm like, goodness gracious. I feel like with the internet, it should be like a couple check boxes and like send in a document. Like, you guys have my documents. It should be a little easier, but
Yeah, I know, right? I get
it's
it.
just,
Hands up. I mean, I'm with you. Hey, is there a TED Talk? or any type of podcast that you might listen to that you think is really good for even your own, maybe there's some sort of spiritual growth, maybe there's some consistent, work needs or growth that are in your world, or even that you would recommend to some of your patients that has just been a really good, consistent person to help build people up. I mean, is there anything that that you listen to?
Yeah. So I don't know. I listen to some, I watch, different things. I read often. I'm a decent reader. I'm not the person who reads like a book a day by any capacity, but 15 to 20 books a year, give or take. Um, in that, I have realized I'm someone who kind of collects ideas and perspectives from a lot of people because I kind of think that's what makes the human experience. I actually saw it as a reel on Instagram about how one of the beautiful things about even if a relationship is no longer present in our life, we collect things from each spot in our life. And so, like, for example, my best friend from seventh grade, who's still one of my best friends, my Starbucks order is the same today in my 30s as it was when we were in seventh grade because she was the one who showed me that and I've loved it since. And that's the only thing I get from Starbucks. And so it's part of that. So a book, and I think he actually has a podcast as well. I don't know if you've ever heard of Michael Easter. He
No,
came
I haven't.
he came up
Michael,
with yeah, Michael Easter. He came up with The Comfort Crisis. It's a book.
okay.
I thought that was very interesting perspective of how we have gotten almost overly comfortable in modern society to the point that we don't challenge ourselves and we are almost resistant to it. And that's somewhat of a privileged perspective. Like, I can acknowledge there are very significant hardships people have faced where, like, yeah, maybe we're not going to look at having to get uncomfortable right then because we need to establish safety, stability, consistency first before we can do that. But in general, I think there is a lot of value in challenging yourself and being uncomfortable in a safe fashion. And so that's something I've kind of leaned into. I do appreciate the radical acceptance perspective of the let them theory from Mel Robbins and how
Oh,
she's
yeah.
marketed it, at least where it is more digestible within society. The
Yep.
book Atomic Habits, I think, is really great for habit formation. And especially when people are feeling stuck, it talks about different mindsets and different ways to establish habits. The other
Oh,
interesting thing is I pull from reality TV. My husband's like, you need to probably stop talking to people about Jersey Shore. But the
Jersey Shore. That it's been a bit, huh? That's not
they're
out, right?
they're actually on their final season, I believe, on
Oh my
MTV.
gosh.
It's the family vacation one, so not the like party one. This is them with like spouses and kids and building businesses. So it's not what it
It,
used to be.
right.
But Mike, the situation on there, he went through significant addiction and now he's built like rehab centers.
Oh,
And one of his quotes, I often kind of use it for perspective oriented purposes, is nothing changes if nothing changes.
oh, that's for real. I know.
And so people laugh, but I always give credit to where I found it. So it's always really funny to say, like, hey, I got this from like the situation. Another good thing that I've pulled recently from reality TV, someone asked a question. It was on a dating show, super cheesy. It's kind of where I zone out and let my brain turn off is on these, cheesy things.
I
But
understand that. I always call it my 1 hour of stupid TV. At the end of the day, I just, your head feels full. You just need a break where you're not engaged. So I get it. I love that you. Okay, so what did this one say?
somebody asked one of the person they were thinking of dating a question because they were like, hey, I have a fear of failure, which a lot of people say, which again prevents us from being uncomfortable, holds us back in a lot of ways. It's, are you actually afraid of failure or are you afraid of somebody else seeing you fail?
Oh, that's
Because,
really it, isn't it? That's like right there on the nose, seeing
yeah,
someone else seeing you fail. Sure.
because if nobody sees you fail, how does anybody know what happened? You're more likely, so it's more of like the perception of what somebody else thinks of how you did this or what happened there.
Yeah. I think that the one that you said where nothing changes if nothing changes, it makes me think right away of the oh shoot, it was right on the tip of my tongue, but ultimately it's the definition of insanity, right? That's
Yeah.
kind of what it is. Yeah. That's what I was thinking. Like the definition of insanity is if you keep doing the same thing all the time, you're going to get the same results. So
Yes.
nothing changes if nothing changes. It's just kind of like a Jersey moment. I can hear it in his accent too. I always say, you don't know what you don't know. I mean, sometimes he's right.
Yeah.
I love that. And I say that all the time because in my world, it's just like, wait, there's a lot that I can bring to the conversation, and yet people don't realize how much. And I'm always like, well, you don't know what you don't know. People need to explore and they have to ask questions and they have to, you know, be willing to try working with different people and finding out more of what you get out of that relationship in that professional sense. But okay, so one of the phrases on your website really caught me too, and it was finding your voice. So what
Mhm.
does that mean to you? How are you help? I mean, let me say something really quick. To
Mhm.
me, and maybe I want to just know if I'm understanding it correctly. Finding your voice to me would be, I guess I'm thinking of kids, but it would be anybody. It's just being able to have that confidence to stand up and, being able to believe in yourself and saying what you want to say in front of who you want to say it to, I guess is a little bit. It's just being internally strong. Am I close?
Yeah, I would say it's in there. A lot of times I say it's being able to say it even when your voice is shaking.
Okay.
Um, Again, I'm going to attribute this one to Taylor Swift. I know some people love her, some people don't. That's not the point. But when I saw her in concert many, many years ago when she first started out, she talked about being fearless isn't the absence of fear, it's having fear and still jumping. And so, in finding and using your voice, it's paying attention to what do I like, who am I, what do I think, and being able to be authentic and speak on that. It kind of goes back into that question we said about failure, where if I say the wrong thing, how is this going to impact me? Are people not going to like me? And it's recognizing, no, I can still work through that. I can still continue to ask questions. I can challenge myself. I can do all of these things, even if somebody thinks or feels differently.
I think that's good. I like it. That it does make me laugh a little bit though as I think about where you're getting all of your
Like, I'm
these
very eclectic in
quotes,
my
but it's relatable though. I will say that because people don't really want to just know that you got this from, Einstein's theory of gravity. Like what people want to be able to just have something relatable and like, oh yeah, I saw that or I know them. And it does, it when it's relatable and it's almost tangible, I think it sticks with people a little bit better. So I love that.
yeah.
How about boundaries? It's always a word that we hear so often today. So, how would you explain healthy boundaries to somebody?
I have explained boundaries as not walls because walls keep everybody and almost everything out, but more of like your front door. If somebody is pounding on your front door in the middle of the night and they're cussing
Oh,
you out, you're
yeah.
probably not going to unlock the door and answer it, right? You want healthy, respectful communication. And so it's allowing boundaries also have to be flexible as long as it's safe to do so. So I'm going to exclude like the really big, not like safety issues and that just general boundaries are those doors. It's not meant to control other people. It's how we are going to hold ourselves accountable and safe in various situations. So, for example, again, if you were sitting here yelling at me and cussing me out, it's not me saying, my boundary is that you can't talk to me that way. My boundary is saying, I'm not going to stay in this situation if that's how you're going to continue to speak to me. I will exit the situation if this continues.
Okay. One thing that I don't think that we really touched on enough is I'm going to put all of your contact information, when I post the links and what have you. But um, so if somebody were to refer you,
Yeah.
they would call you, you have a separate business line or your cell phone or an email, and then or does your website have, I didn't really look, do you have maybe contact forms or different patient type forms? Give us the process of what that looks like if we're brand new to you.
Yeah, I've had people reach out in phone call, text message, email, and the contact form on the website. And all of the contact information is on there, the email and the phone number. And it says you can text. A lot of people generally prefer text, email, or the contact form just because of phone tag and life is kind of busy. So a lot of people will reach out. I will always kind of verify, is what I'm experienced in a right fit for you? And I tell people always, I want therapy to work for you. So we can start, we can meet. You're assessing to see if you think it's a good fit. I'll make sure that I think it's a good fit as well, that our personalities mesh and that I'm within my wheelhouse.
Mhm.
And if you don't think this is a right fit, let me know. I'm not going to take offense to that because I want it to work for you. And if that's not with me, it's with somebody else. So we will set up an intake session. We'll go over all of the forms you filled out, kind of start to ask questions, get in depth. They can ask me questions about the process. Usually it takes 2 to 3 sessions to start to really get comfortable. But yeah, sometimes depending on availability, I have availability usually within a week or two, but
Okay.
that's dependent on schedule fit.
Yeah. Do you work all Monday through Friday, certain out, or is it just certain days of the week?
So I have realized like one of my boundaries is kind of what works best for me is I tend to do back-to-back sessions. And
Okay.
so I do a couple days each week and it flexes. I think one week is Monday, Tuesday, and the next week is like a Wednesday, Thursday. It also allows me space where if somebody needs an emergency session, I can fill it in one of those days and not have to, you know, upend when emergencies do happen. And that's also part of just how I'm building things currently.
Okay. Well, and it sounds like that works really well with family. I mean, that's
Kids.
one of the things that I think that, us gals have to always balance is we're the ones either figuring out daycare for the kids or, packing their backpacks in the morning, making sure everything is knocked out for school and we haven't forgotten something or getting a call from school that you need something. Those drives up to school, oh my gosh, like really? Can we get an extra pair of clothes in your locker or something? Yeah, so
Yeah.
it's a lot. So it's nice that you've been able to find that little bit of balance. Are you going to
Mhm.
have any more children?
I don't think so.
Oh, three's good.
I might be good at three. I'm realizing this outnumbered thing is really a lot of mental energy. It's really great. I love my kids, but I think we might be done at three. Also, I like to travel, and most hotels and stuff are not set up for families of six. It's you can get by on a family of five, especially with a little and like a pack and play. But then you're
Sure.
starting to get into either bigger rooms, houses, those kinds of
Yeah.
things.
Yeah. There was one thing that my mom always said to me, and she'd say it today. She's like, you know what? If you either stop at two and you have a table for four, and there's one kid for each of you, but once you hit three, you're already outnumbered, and you don't even notice the fourth and the fifth and the sixth. You just get a bigger table. The bigger kids start helping the little kids, and it just kind of works. But three, she said, was the hardest. And so I'm from a family of four. She's like, after
Good.
three, it was hard. Then she had four. And it's amazing, even to me growing up not me growing up, my kids growing up in the Forest Hills area. In my neighborhood, I mean, I knew so many women. I held a Bible study in my home for years, and these women that had 4 and 5 and 6 kids, I was like, how do you guys do it today? I mean, I recognize it in my parents' generations. They were, one of eight. Always, it seemed
Mhm.
like 7, 8, 10 kids way back then. Then they kind of toned it down, maybe 4 or 5 or whatever. In our generation, it seems like you said you only have a brother, but I mean, I
Mhm.
always felt like there was more kids. And now I thought that we were, kind of having two or three kind of thing. And then all of a sudden, there's this neighborhood that I live in, and they have these multitudes of kids. And I thought, this is just a really strange demographic, but I thought it was amazing to see all these
Yeah.
kids. Like it was great. It was great, but not for me. Not in working too, right? There's only so
Well,
much you
yeah, I think when, parents used to have, like you said, 5, 6, 7, 8 kids, that was for the most part his single parent or like single working parent households. And then the
yes.
other parent was staying home. Whereas in modern times in society now, it's a lot of dual income earners. And
Mm-hmm.
that
Mm-hmm.
makes a difference in how to manage and keep a family. And then also, I think younger generations, kind of starting with millennials and on down, are very emotionally aware. And their therapy is part of that. Just in general, the access to idea is very different than when we were younger. We had to
Mm-hmm.
grab encyclopedias. I don't know that they know what those are now, but you can get stuff off social media pretty quickly or
Yeah.
Google. Um, And so I think there's also the conversation of like, how do I want to raise my kids? What is my emotional capacity for raising my kids in a way that they understand and how they treat other people and how they're treated? And then again, that comes into the mental load piece.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Well, so what would a younger self, what would your younger self say about you today? Or what would you want your younger self to say about you today?
I think she would be pretty proud of where we've gotten, what we've accomplished, the people in our lives, and the relationships we've invested into. I am also a super large advocate for community. And part of that is finding your own community. And I think, at least in my 20s, there was a lot of wanting to be part of spaces and communities that maybe weren't for me and trying to fit into them. And so realizing that, hey, in your 30s, you're going to find your people
Hmm.
and you're not going to have to beg to sit at their table. They're just going to pull out the chair and say, hey, I've been waiting for you.
Yeah.
And so I think knowing that that is coming, I wouldn't have changed anything that I experienced by any capacity because it got me to where I am. Super cliche, I know. But knowing what's coming and the people in our lives now, and I think that that's a beautiful thing to look forward to because 20s are hard for a
20s
lot of
are
people.
hard. They are. I know. If I had to go back and like start again, I don't think I would go back to even my 20s. I might just somewhere in my early 30s start again. You
Yeah.
feel like I don't mind being a little bit younger, but I don't want to go too far back. I want to have at least some of the knowledge. Some of those experiences don't need to be done again.
Nope, we learned the lessons. We'll keep them with us, but I don't know that I want to go through that again.
No, exactly. I know. Oh my gosh. Okay, so the last question that I really have for you as we're talking about your business is just, really what would summarize the business or kind of, for people that are feeling stuck or excuse me, overwhelmed or just not sure where to begin and to be able to use your services, if something like this just kind of resonated with them, can you help us just summarize and give us the final notes from you?
Yeah, I would say life is a series of choosing between two hard things. It's really hard to be stuck and it's really hard to be uncomfortable and do that reach out. But like I said earlier, nothing changes if nothing changes. So if you aren't enjoying where you're at, I would say reach out. Send the email, say, hey, I'm stuck. I'm going through stuff. I just need perspective, or I'm feeling really anxious. I'm feeling depressed, whatever it is, and just start there. In habit formation, starting is usually the hardest thing to do. But once you kind of get over that hump, you can start to build up the tolerance and tolerating that discomfort and working through that process. So I would say just send the email. Fill out the contact form. And like I said, whether it's with me or somebody else, if your life is not where you want it to be, it's short. So just do the thing. Send it.
Life is short. Though the one thing I see all the time is YOLO. And sometimes I look at that and I think, oh my gosh, another acronym. What does that one mean? Like I'm always like, okay, brain, click in. What does that mean? And that's you only live once, right? And so
Mhm.
life being short and you only live once, I mean, don't live in pain or in some sort of discomfort in any way, right? Just kind of I
And there,
understand that's very inviting of you. Yeah.
yeah, and there are people who want to help. There are people who want to see you and they want to hear what you have to say. And so it's not that any voice is more important. It's you getting to know yourself and choosing that life that you want to have.
That's great. I love that. That's a great summary right there. So, before we continue, if you're enjoying today's conversation, please take a moment to like and subscribe and share this podcast, Women and the Businesses They Own. We would be grateful. I really love to share the stories of all of these women that I have on here. And so we're going to move and transition to this lightning round. This is always a fun favorite part because it's going to be kind of supposed to be a little bit more rapid fire, but if you get stuck, it's okay. There's no timing, no kitchen timer on here. So a little bit of personality coming out of Katie right now. So are you a coffee, tea, or Diet Coke drinker?
One cup of black coffee, unless it's at Starbucks. Occasionally it's a Java chip, but otherwise it would be Coke. I don't like Diet Coke. Sorry,
Oh,
Diet Coke
Coke.
drinkers.
Yeah.
Straight Coke
Coke
or
it is?
or frozen Coke. Again, those
Oh,
are,
yeah.
yep,
Oh, I'm glad you brought that up because when you were talking about your seventh grade friend and got you on this perfect drink that you've always had to Starbucks, I meant
yep.
to ask for all of our listeners, but I think I heard Java chip.
Java chip. I don't even think it's on the menu anymore, but I still ask for it. And
And
they've nicely provided it. I don't know if there's an additional cost, but sometimes you got to treat yourself a little bit.
I remember those. Doesn't it have the whipped cream with the little chips on top even? Oh, they should never take that one off the menu.
Yep.
What's your favorite way to recharge after a long week?
I either reality TV. I have a garden that this is the second year, so I really love gardening. I like to try to be in nature. Again, that's part of changing modern life a little bit.
Yeah.
But also, I'm a napper. I like to nap.
That's perfect. If you find time with everything else that you just said and you can nap, good for you. So
Yep.
I love gardens. I have wanted one forever, and I just don't know how to go out there and start digging holes myself. I really feel like I need support in that area, and my neighborhood is not conducive of you can't even have a fence, and we have
Oh, really?
rodents, deer, everything. So someday I am not giving up. But what's in your garden?
I have a cut flowers section, and then I have three raised beds. We have corn, and I'm trying to grow pumpkins. I've been trying for watermelon; those are really finicky. But we
Oh,
have like fruits, vegetables, herbs, all of the things in there. We try new stuff. Like I said, this is our second year, but our raspberries are thriving. I think they're trying to take over actually everything currently.
oh, the raspberries are amazing. So do the kids love to go out there and they just eat it fresh off the vine kind of thing or the bush or whatever it is?
Well, then they get to, pluck it. They also get to part of what I really love about gardening is the delayed gratification. That's where it really counteracts modern society of like
Yeah.
streaming service where you just click and you get whatever you want. They get to see it grow and they get to see like, nope, it's not ready. We still have to wait. So it's all patience or being patient oriented and just seeing the
Wow.
process.
But if you have things like raspberries, you said, or strawberries, or even like little cherry tomatoes, those are just so amazing. And they can kind of eventually, it's like, they're ready, mom. And they can just pop them in their mouth.
Yep.
Love that.
They'll walk up with handfuls of things and we wash them and then we eat them, all of the stuff.
Oh my gosh. Okay. So do you like a beach vacation, a mountain cabin, or something different? Or what would the different be?
All of the above. So we honeymooned in Hawaii, and that has a special place in my heart. We've been to the Smoky Mountains, absolutely adore that. Like I said, I like to travel, so I'll find something anywhere. My really bad habit with travel is every time we're somewhere and I love it, I keep trying to move. And my husband's like, no, we can't just pick up and move to Tennessee today. And I'm like, but they have a great school district right over here. So again, I fall in love with places. And actually, one of the cool things about my travel that I've started to do is I have shelves that like hang up like a lot of people do.
Yeah.
And instead of just having random things on them, I've started to put something that I get from vacation on them. And
Okay.
that collecting nostalgia, like these all have a story way.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. They all have a story. I was looking at because I've been trying to do just hitting things in Michigan. I'm like, gosh, we have a
Mm,
great state. We have beautiful coastal towns, if you will, like whatever. And
yeah.
I'm like, I drive on the freeway, miss all the exits, and just get where I want to be. So I've been a little bit more, I guess, intentional about trying to get to a couple of these. And then I said, I need to create a little map or a little journal about just my day in this town. My mom had said to me that day, she's like, well, they had one in the store. We just left. We were in Frankfurt a week. It was like, really, it was like a coastal town book of Michigan or whatever. I'm like, maybe Amazon will have it. I need to look it up because I just think it'd be cool to be able to see which ones would be in the book and then just put your adventures down or something. Like you said, I mean, I ended up picking up a fish dish. That's what it was
Oh,
just
that's
a very narrow, long fish. And I took it up to the counter. I'm like, what do you do with this? How would you use it? I said to her, how would you? She's like, well, you don't have to use it for food. You could decorate, right? It could just be a piece. And I thought, yeah, that's great. Well, in 1 week's time, when I went back up north, I took it over to our neighbors. We were invited over for pizza, and I was like, I have to bring something. I cut up a bunch of cheese and threw some crackers on it, and I was like, here's my fish dish.
Here's my fish dish. I love it. No, like one of the things on my shelf, I we took a complete New England road trip last summer and we ended up in Bar Harbor, Maine for the 4th of July. Phenomenal. And so I have a old lobster trap with a lobster buoy up there. I
Oh
have
my
like the dinner triangle that we got in Vermont when we stayed there. The
Those are
different
incredible things. Yeah,
yeah.
and then you can speak of them with your kids. You can just be like, you go by and they can say, Mom, remember when we did this? And that's a great way for memories. Okay, let me get back here. So, you already kind of talked about the books and that you love to read, maybe about 15 a year. Have you ever read a book more than once? What was it?
Marley and Me.
You read Marley and Me more than once? Did
I
you cry?
don't know how I've tolerated it.
I
I'm
was gonna
highly
say, did you
empathetic.
cry
Like
both times?
when I was younger, I used to read it like once a year, and then I've also seen obviously the movie. It's phenomenal, but
Oh
yeah,
my. That would be a tough one. Okay, well, let's switch gears from the tears to what makes you laugh.
I love comedy. I think it has a really special place in getting people happy and laughing. I personally find Kevin Hart to be one of the funniest people. I know not everybody's into his style of comedy, but I have seen him when he was downtown at Van Andel, and I was grossly like on the floor crying, hyperventilating, laughing. So there's that.
Laughing is so good for us. It gives us back years. I truly believe it. But a good belly laugh when you hurt so bad from laughing, I love that.
Yeah.
And then what is one word your closest friend, maybe that seventh grade bestie today, all grown up, what word would she use to describe you?
Ooh, that is a great one. Um, Probably either loyal or resilient, I would say.
Yeah, either one are very good ones to be able to be. So far, nobody has said a negative word. Thank goodness. I don't know how I'd respond to that.
Nope.
Can you imagine? Yeah, my best friend calls me. I don't know. Who knows? I don't even want to say it, but that's
Yep.
great. Okay. So that's all we have in the lightning round today. And I always like to just kind of summarize a little bit about myself, just something that touched me or resonated with me. And I think it's really just kind of those points that you put on your website. It sounds like your website, as you navigate it, it's very clean, precise, organized, and it just kind of hits home on some of those things. And what I had touched on earlier too is what you had finding your voice was one. And I think when people see that, that's very inviting for them and to think, yeah, I want that. And then the other one that I had asked you is just about every person being different. And I think we know that maybe deep down, but it's always a good reminder for us just to pause and say, yes, of course, we're all different. And we're going
Yep.
to have different problems and we're going to have different ways of being able to come to those conclusions in a positive way as well. So anyway, I hope that people will reach out to you and I'll have all that information for them to be able to get in touch with you. So anyway, I just wanted to be able to thank you again for being on Women in Wealth and the Businesses They Own podcast. Your story matters, and today you told it beautifully. And thank you to all of our listeners for spending time with their day. And hopefully, again, please share it if this conversation touched you in any way or if it's meant for somebody else that you can share it with. And always remember, she came, she spoke, and she inspired. And we'll see you next time.